The Alaskan wind, a razor-edged blade, carved through the frozen expanse, each gust a mournful dirge. Ethan Calloway, a man weathered by the wilderness, moved with a practiced rhythm, his boots crunching through the crust of snow. The landscape, a monochrome tableau, stretched endlessly, a realm of ice and silence. The storm's fury had subsided, leaving behind a stark, desolate beauty, a quiet that whispered secrets of the wild. Ethan's mission, a solitary dance with nature's rhythms, was disrupted by an anomaly, a subtle disturbance in the pristine canvas of the snow. Tracks, faint and fragile, etched a story of desperation. Small paw prints, delicate claw marks, a drag mark that spoke of a tragic burden. His heart, a compass attuned to the wilderness, sank with a familiar dread. The tracks led him to a clearing, a crimson stain against the white, a brutal punctuation mark in the silent narrative. Two bodies, frozen and still, lay half buried in the snow. A mother wolf, her eyes glazed, her fur matted, and a mother bear, her massive form a frozen monument to sacrifice. Beside them, two cubs, orphaned and vulnerable, huddled together for warmth, their small bodies trembling with cold and fear. The wolf pup, a wisp of silver-white fur, barely stirred, its breath a faint, icy whisper. The bear cub, dark and diminutive, whimpered softly, its eyes clouded with a primal terror. Ethan, his hand hovering above the cubs, felt the weight of the wilderness, the cruel calculus of survival. Yet something in their fragile forms, their silent plea, ignited a spark of defiance within him. Against the cold logic of nature, he lifted the cubs, their bodies light and fragile in his arms, their warmth a faint echo against the biting wind. "We're not done yet," he murmured, his voice a promise against the silence. The cabin, a sanctuary of rough-hewn timber and flickering firelight, became a battleground against the encroaching cold. Ethan, his movements precise and urgent, laid the cubs by the hearth, their bodies unresponsive, their lives hanging by a thread. The wolf pup, Ghost, was barely breathing, its small chest rising and falling in shallow, desperate gasps. The bear cub, Kodiak, whimpered weakly, his eyes half closed, his dark fur dusted with frost. Ethan, his hands calloused but gentle, worked tirelessly, his actions a silent prayer against the odds. He warmed blankets by the fire, wrapping the cubs in layers of warmth, trying to coax life back into their frozen limbs. He thawed chunks of meat, mixing a milk substitute, feeding them with a dropper, each drop a precious lifeline. Ghost, his body shutting down, refused to eat, his small mouth clenched tight. Ethan, his determination a shield against despair, forced small droplets into the pup's mouth, his touch firm but tender. The night was a vigil, a silent struggle against the encroaching darkness. Outside, the storm raged, a howling testament to the wilderness's indifference. Inside, the fire crackled, a fragile beacon of hope. Ethan, his face etched with worry, questioned his intervention, his defiance of nature's harsh decree. But as the first light of dawn touched the window, Ghost stirred, a weak whimper escaping his lips, and Ethan knew he had crossed a threshold, a line between observer and participant. Days bled into weeks, the rhythm of the cabin now dictated by the cub's fragile recovery. Ghost, his silver-white fur regaining its sheen, his blue eyes piercing, remained skittish, a shadow in the corners, a whisper in the silence. Kodiak, more trusting, clumsy and playful, became a constant presence, a warm weight against Ethan's leg, a clumsy explorer of the cabin's confines. Ethan, his life a solitary dance with the wilderness, found himself bound by an unexpected responsibility, a silent pact forged in the crucible of survival. He set rules, boundaries meant to protect, to prepare them for a life beyond the cabin. They must eat on a schedule, learn to forage, to hunt. He reminded himself that this was temporary, a bridge to a life beyond his walls, a return to the wild. But rules like the boundaries between man and beast began to blur. Ghost, his small paws padding silently, followed Ethan's every move, his presence a constant shadow. Kodiak, his dark eyes pleading, whined when left alone, seeking warmth and comfort by the fire, curling against Ethan's leg at night. Against his better judgment, Ethan allowed them to sleep inside, their warmth a comfort against the cold. He told himself he wasn't getting attached, that this was a temporary arrangement, a necessary step towards their return to the wild. The cubs grew stronger, their instincts sharpening, their personalities emerging. Ethan, his role shifting from rescuer to mentor, began training them for survival. Ghost, with his predatory grace, learned to stalk, to track, to anticipate. Kodiak, with his ursine strength, learned to forage, to climb, to find sustenance in the harsh landscape. But instincts like the wilderness itself were unpredictable, untamed. Kodiak, playful and clumsy, sought to wrestle, to tumble, to engage in the rough and tumble of cubhood. Ghost, defensive and wary, snarled at sudden movements, his eyes flashing with a primal fear. One morning, Ethan tested their instincts, leaving a chunk of frozen fish outside, a test of their predatory drive. Ghost, his movements swift and silent, lunged first, snapping at Kodiak when he got too close, a territorial display that turned violent. Ethan intervened, his voice sharp, his movements decisive. But Ghost, his instincts overriding his fear, sank his small teeth into Ethan's arm, a sharp, stinging reminder of their wild nature. The stain of blood dark against the snow was a stark lesson, a boundary crossed, a reminder that they were not pets, but wild animals, bound by instincts beyond human control. Ethan, his heart heavy, stepped back emotionally, building a small outdoor pen, forcing them to spend less time inside, creating a physical and emotional distance. He had to prepare them for release, to sever the fragile bond before it became unbreakable, before he became too attached. As winter loosened its grip, the promise of spring painted the landscape with a faint blush of green. Ethan, his heart heavy with a sense of inevitability, decided it was time for Ghost and Kodiak to fend for themselves, to embrace the wild that was their birthright. He took them deeper into the woods, a journey into their future, a return to their past. He demonstrated the art of tracking, the silent dance of predator and prey, the subtle language of the wilderness. Ghost, his eyes keen, his senses sharp, watched attentively, his instincts taking over as he stalked a snowshoe hare, his movements fluid and graceful. But when the moment came to strike, to unleash the primal fury within, he hesitated, his eyes flicking towards Ethan, seeking approval, seeking guidance. The moment was lost, the hare escaping into the undergrowth, a missed opportunity, a testament to the lingering bond. Kodiak, his ursine curiosity leading him astray, climbed a tree in pursuit of honey, his massive paws clumsy, his progress slow. He reached the hive, his eyes gleaming with anticipation, but his weight proved too much, his grip failing, his descent a panicked tumble. He whimpered for help, his voice a plaintive cry, his eyes pleading. Ethan sighed, a parent's burden, a mentor's responsibility, a reluctant admission that he had become more than their caretaker, more than a temporary guardian. He had become their parent, their protector, their guide. The fragile peace, the delicate balance between man and beast, shattered with the arrival of a predator, a reminder of the wilderness's unforgiving nature. A full-grown grizzly, gaunt and desperate, its eyes burning with hunger, entered their territory, drawn by the cub's scent, a primal lure. Ethan, his senses honed by years in the wild, spotted the massive beast sniffing near the cabin, its presence a chilling threat. He tried to scare it off, his voice sharp, his movements aggressive, but the grizzly, driven by hunger, charged unexpectedly, its massive claws swiping at Ghost, who yelped and tumbled into the snow, his small body a fragile target. Kodiak, instead of running, instead of seeking safety, stood his ground, his small form a defiant silhouette against the massive predator, his voice a tiny but defiant roar. Ethan, his heart pounding, his actions swift and decisive, fired a warning shot into the air, the sound echoing through the valley, driving the bear away. But Ghost, his silver fur stained with blood, was injured, his small body trembling with pain. That night, Ethan, his hands gentle, his touch precise, stitch the wound. His actions a silent promise, a desperate attempt to protect them from the cruelty of the wild. He realized that the wilderness was far crueler than he had ever prepared them for, that the lessons he had taught them were mere whispers against the storm of survival. Ethan knew he couldn't keep them forever, that their destiny lay beyond the confines of his cabin, beyond the boundaries of his protection. As spring painted the landscape with vibrant hues, a promise of renewal, he scouted a safer location, a valley where wolves roamed, where berries grew plentiful, a place where Ghost and Kodiak could find their place in the wild. The day arrived, a day etched in the memory of a reluctant parent, a day of bittersweet farewell. He led Ghost and Kodiak deep into the wilderness, a journey into their future, a return to their past. The air was thick with unspoken emotions, the silence heavy with the weight of their bond. Ghost, his eyes uncertain, his movements hesitant, stared at Ethan, seeking a reassurance, a confirmation. Kodiak, his nose twitching, his senses alive, sniffed the air, sensing freedom, sensing a return to his birthright. Ethan knelt, his voice a whisper against the wind. It's time. He turned, his heart heavy, his steps deliberate, and walked away without looking back. A parent's sacrifice, a mentor's trust. Ghost whimpered, a plaintive cry against the silence. But Kodiak, his massive form nudging his companion forward, led him into the trees, their figures disappearing into the verdant tapestry of the wilderness. Ethan returned to an empty cabin, the silence a deafening echo of their absence, the emptiness a tangible presence, a void that spoke of the bond they had shared, the love they had nurtured. Months passed, the rhythm of Ethan's life returning to its solitary cadence, his ranger duties a familiar comfort, a distraction from the emptiness that lingered in the cabin. He resumed his patrols, his observations, his solitary dance with the wilderness. But the silence was unbearable, the absence a constant ache. One night, while tracking a herd of caribou, his eyes caught a flicker of movement in the distance, a silver flash against the twilight. He strained his eyes, his heart pounding, his breath catching in his throat. A silver wolf, his fur gleaming in the fading light, his blue eyes piercing, stood at the edge of the trees. It was Ghost, grown, strong, a creature of the wild. He did not approach, but he lingered, his gaze fixed on Ethan, his presence a silent acknowledgement, a wordless communication. Beside him, Kodiak, now a massive bear, his dark fur thick and powerful, sniffed the air, his presence a silent guardian. They had survived, they had thrived, they had found their place in the wild. Ethan watched, his heart swelling with a mixture of pride and relief, his eyes misting with unspoken emotions. Ghost tilted his head slightly, a silent nod, a gesture of recognition, a wordless farewell, before vanishing back into the shadows of the forest. Kodiak following close behind. The encounter, fleeting and silent, was a powerful affirmation, a testament to their bond, a reminder that they were not forgotten. Ethan came to terms with their absence, his heart finding solace in their survival, his spirit finding peace in their freedom. He documented their journey in his ranger logs, their story a testament to the delicate balance between man and nature, a reminder of the unexpected bonds that could form in the heart of the wilderness. He wrote of their resilience, their courage, their adaptability, their ability to thrive in the face of adversity. One evening, as summer painted the sky with vibrant hues, a symphony of howls echoed through the valley, a chorus of wild voices, a song of the pack. Ethan, his ears attuned to the wilderness, recognized the howls, the familiar cadence, the unmistakable voice of Ghost. He followed the sound, his heart pounding, his steps eager, his spirit soaring. He found them in a clearing, Ghost surrounded by his pack, a mate by his side, pups tumbling at their feet. Kodiak, towering and strong, stood guard, his presence a silent protector, a watchful guardian. Ethan watched from the edge of the trees, his heart overflowing with joy, his eyes misting with tears. They were where they belonged. They were thriving. They were free. The pack's song, a chorus of wild voices, was a celebration of life, a testament to their resilience, a reminder of the enduring power of nature. Years passed, the seasons turning, the landscape changing, the wilderness remaining a constant, a timeless realm of beauty and mystery. Ethan, now older, his hair silvered, his face etched with the wisdom of the wild, continued his ranger duties, his life a solitary dance with nature's rhythms. Younger rangers, their eyes wide with disbelief, spoke of a strange duo in the wild, a silver wolf leading a bear. A myth, they said, a legend. Ethan, his eyes twinkling, his voice a whisper against the wind, knew the truth, the reality of their bond, the enduring legacy of their story. As he watched the distant horizon, the sun painting the sky with vibrant hues, he whispered, "Stay wild." And in the heart of the frozen wilderness, Ghost and Kodiak, their legend echoing through the valleys, their presence a whisper against the wind, ran free, their bond a testament to the enduring power of nature, their story a reminder of the unexpected connections that could form in the heart of the wild. Their legacy, a whisper against the wind, a song of the pack, a reminder of the enduring bond between man and beast, lived on, a testament to the frozen legacy, the enduring tale of Ghost and Kodiak.